Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day life. Let's start with the video.
I, 33F, married my childhood best friend John, 33M, when we were 22. I knew he was gay and we decided to get married for several reasons: taxes, convenience, to keep his family from finding out, etc. I got along with his family, who loved me. John had med school paid for by his family. I didn't have a job and instead became a full-time caretaker for his maternal grandparents who, when we first got married, were 85 and 87 and were dealing with multiple health problems. John's family supported us both financially through John's medical career. Once John got his MD and finished residency 3 years ago, he decided to come out to his parents. We got divorced. We decided against telling the family that I knew all along. John's parents cut him off completely when he moved in with his boyfriend, basically disowning him. His grandparents weren't told about him being gay. Everyone was pretty much in agreement that it wasn't a good idea, as they were quite fragile physically and mentally at this point. But they knew we divorced, and whereas John used to come see his grandparents frequently because his parents had disowned him, John decided to pretty much limit contact with his entire family and never really visited or called. On the other hand, I had been his grandparents' main caretaker for so long that I didn't have any other career training to support myself. Figured it would make sense for me to continue being their caretaker as they were rapidly declining and didn't want them to adjust poorly to a lot of new changes. I moved into his grandparents' home with them. While I was angry at John's parents for their treatment of him, I still loved his grandparents, who had always been kind to me. When they passed, within a few weeks of each other, his grandfather ended up willing almost their entire estate to me, about $12 million in assets. John and his mom each received about $50K. John and I discussed it, and I felt it was fair that he received a higher portion, and were both happy and comfortable with how we divided it. His parents, on the other hand, had expected to receive the bulk of the inheritance and accused me of abusing his grandparents and manipulating them into willing almost everything to me. Apparently, they had made some business decisions, assuming they would receive the money. They also argued that they would have gone ballistic if they knew John was using his money to fund his lifestyle. I honestly hadn't thought of their will at all when they passed. It had never come up, but I feel John deserves the money after the way his parents treated him. And John tells me I deserve to be taken care of after I spent more than a decade of my life caring for his grandparents. Are we the assholes for keeping the inheritance when his parents had made plans based on their assumptions of the inheritance? 1000% not the a-hole. I think it's amazing how you chose to continue to care for them, especially that you cared for them in ways no one else in their actual family did. They saw that and chose to leave everything that they did to you. They made that decision because they saw that you mattered and cared. Accepting it or giving it to them would be dishonoring the choices they made about where their assets went after they were gone. I understand sharing it with John. They likely didn't give him more because of the divorce, and they didn't know or understand the full scope of the situation, so sharing with him is a kind gesture. His parents are just upset that they made financial choices without confirmation that they could maintain them, and that while they're homophobic and don't think their son deserves anything, you don't feel the same. Not the a-hole. John's grandparents left you the money because they recognized the sacrifices you had made to care for them with love and respect. Their inheritance is yours. And although John's grandparents might not have approved if they had known John was gay, you are well within your rights to share some of your inheritance with your former husband if you wish to do so. If John's parents had wanted a greater inheritance, they probably should have made a bigger effort to care for the grandparents. If they had done half the caregiving, the grandparents might have left them half the estate. Not the a-hole. His grandparents chose to leave the money to you. If they are of sound body and mind, it is their right to disperse their money as they feel. They truly appreciated how you cared for them. If you need to pay it forward, consider donating to charity. Maybe you could donate to the care of LGBT youth. Next story. My 42F daughter, 17F, used to be an A+ student. In grade 8, she got A's in most of her academic classes. The only class where she got a B was French, but that was mainly because her French teacher was an a-hole. She got into the IB program, and she was my little star. I had high hopes for her. She was always hardworking and went above and beyond. Now, things have changed. In grade 11, the first year of IB, she slacks off. She procrastinates over everything. She's barely passing French classes, and her overall average is okay in the B's, but I doubt that she'd be able to keep it. She is especially struggling and is falling behind in French, math, and chemistry. Before, I had high hopes that she would be able to get into the medical field. Now she'd be lucky if she's able to make it into college. My husband, 47M, and I kept telling her that she should work harder, and we're disappointed in her, considering that she is now going backward, and to stop wasting time. She keeps saying that she would get better, but at this point she sounds like a broken record. We are now thinking that letting her go into IB was a big mistake, and she should leave the program next year. My daughter has been receiving tutoring sessions for math and chemistry in order to boost her grades. However, we have not seen an improvement, and we are spending so much money for hers along with her brother's tutoring sessions. This evening, we had a discussion that we would limit 5 tutoring sessions per week to 2 to 3 so we can meet a budget. She agreed. A few hours after the discussion, I found her in the basement with her brothers. I asked her what she was doing. She didn't say anything. I got mad and told her that I will no longer pay for her tutoring sessions until she starts to take her studies seriously. I told her that she chose to get into the program in the first place, and she can go slack off, get terrible grades, and waste her life for all I care, but she will not be getting our money for her studies if she is not willing to put in the effort herself. She begged me and told me that she will start taking it seriously, and I said that until then she is on her own. My husband called me and I was really frustrated, and he said to ignore her. I think that he is on my side. Am I the a-hole here? You sound a lot like my mom. I haven't spoken to her in 20 years. She was also a cruel woman who would scream at me, if you can get a B, you can get an A. All that mattered were grades, not figuring out why I was really struggling, because I was being bullied and wanted to stop living. Thankfully, I cut her off of my life, because I was better off without a mom than with a disappointed one. God only knows how much more therapy I'll need to ever feel good enough. So, in my opinion, you're the a-hole. You sound like you talked to her in an appalling manner. You're the a-hole big time. She was doing well in 8th grade because she has overbearing parents who were pushing her too hard, too fast. She's now experiencing burnout because you cannot run at full speed for years. Her procrastination is a symptom of anxiety that stems from her being constantly terrified of failure because of the disparaging way her parents talk to her when she gets a B. I'm sure your words are even more hurtful when you're talking to her in person. Despite your best efforts to break her spirit, she's still getting good grades, just not straight A's like her abusive parents demand her. As punishment for the god-awful sin of being a normal kid with some problems in French class, you make it clear to her that your support for her is conditional, terrify her to the point she can't find words to speak, and punish her for spending time with her brothers? I was in a similar position when I was her age. My parents took me to psychologists to fix me, and she told them my only problem was my parents causing me stress. What you're doing is child abuse, and I hope your daughter can get as far as she can from her toxic parents and find a better life when she turns 18. Next story. My wife, 27F, and I, 29M, have been together for 6 years and married for a year. I am the sole earner of the family. Every day after coming home from work, I help her with little household chores, like help her cut the vegetables for whatever she's cooking, do the dishes sometimes, help set up the table, clean the table. Even though this was very tiring for me since I would come home from work and still help her, I still did it because I wanted to. 2 days ago, I had a long day at work. When I came home late in the evening, she said she was going out with friends and that the dishes from lunch were still in the sink, and she asked me to wash them. Now, I was really tired and just planned to skip dinner and sleep, let alone do the dishes, but she insisted that I do them now or rest for a few minutes and do them, since she doesn't want to keep the dishes from this morning till the next, and that she would have done them, but it was her friend's birthday and she couldn't get there late. At this point, I was really annoyed, and I just went off about how not only am I the only one earning for us both, but I also help her do the chores. I never complained about it before because, as I said, I like to help her. But there were times when I needed a break from the office and household chores. I also pointed out that she has not worked for a single day in her life, and so she doesn't know that it can get tiring sometimes, and I can't do both things at once. At this, she started crying, saying that I am throwing it in her face, that I am the one earning for us, and said that I am not doing her a favor by earning money. She also said that I ruined her mood for the birthday party. All she does all day is just post stories on Instagram for her 500 followers, and she barely works and still expects me to help her after working the entire day, even though she doesn't help me by working and earning money. She ended up skipping her friend's birthday party, and I even got a call or two from her friends saying how I'm an asshole because I ruined her mood and she couldn't go to her friend's birthday party. It really pains me to say this, but my wife has changed a lot since the day we got married. It didn't happen all of a sudden, it kept happening slowly. But anyways, am I the a-hole? Not just for the dishes, but also for making her miss the party? Edit. We don't have any children, and since we're talking about that, I'll also say, since someone asked who does the cleaning and laundry and other stuff, our house doesn't get cleaned every day, maybe once every 2 to 3 days. The house is not messy most of the time since there are no kids. One of the main reasons we don't want kids right now. So cleaning it once every 2 to 3 days works just fine. We don't live in a dirty house, of course. And my wife does it. And I'm not trying to downplay her role as a homemaker, since that is something somebody else said, and I literally can't find any of these comments now. Not the a-hole. You are the sole earner. In this day and age, everyone works, and everyone does the chores. The chores aren't nearly as hard as work, and anyone who says otherwise probably doesn't work. I work, and I do the chores as I live alone. Chores can be finished with relaxed work in 4 hours, 2 if you work hard. Shopping for clothes, deciding what to wear does not count in the chores. She doesn't contribute to the household financially. That means that she has to do the maximum amount of chores, and some minor ones are done by the other spouse. That's how this arrangement works. You can't have him working and then complaining that he doesn't do the same amount of chores as you. She said that you aren't doing her a favor by earning money. Downvote me all you want, but yeah? Especially if you're not contributing to the household even. Your Instagram comment just further proves how she must waste her time. If she had planned a party in the evening, then the dishes could have been handled immediately after lunch. And lastly, you're not the a-hole because the dishes weren't killing anyone. You could have rested for 30 minutes and then done them, but she didn't do them and was bugging you about it when you were exhausted. My opinion is that everyone should work in this day and age. Nearly everyone does, and houses work. Chores are handled. Kids are taken care of. You need to provide to the house you live in. One person can't be the sole financial earner. Chores can't be all you do, especially after technology and how easy they've become. If chores are taking you all day and you're exhausted, you're doing them wrong. Work smart, not hard. And lastly, a stay-at-home spouse without kids has to do all the chores. The argument that chores are a lot of work is nonsense, since they're just 2 people. No childcare, no picking up kids, laundry is just for 2 people, same goes with grocery shopping and meals. Groceries can be ordered. You can keep meals simple. Breakfast is simple anyway. This is going to get downvoted into oblivion, I'm aware. I only ask the downvoters to accompany their downvote with an explanation so as to convince me. Here's the next story. I'm 19F, if that matters. About 4 months ago, my dad asked me to go into his closet and grab a fishing pole on his top shelf that he couldn't reach. A box fell on top of my head, and a bunch of paper and folders fell out. While trying to pick them back up, I noticed a lot of them seemed to have my name. Looking through, I saw stuff like Amy's favorite food, Amy's birthmarks, which seemed relatively normal until I got to a chart that listed all the boyfriends I'd ever had, the ones he knew about, and boxes indicating whether or not I had done the deed with them. There was even a question mark indicating at one point he was questioning if I was a virgin still. I saw other things including timestamped records of stuff I had done, when I ate, when I slept, whether or not I had left the house that day or not. I won't go into too much detail, but I saw very intimate things my dad had written down about my daily activities and body, as if he had been tracking my every move. I was very creeped out, to say the least, and confronted him about it. He tried to explain that I was a difficult child to handle, and that's why he started the lists. But I just felt so violated and creeped out that I decided it was time to finally leave. And I did. Told him what he did was weird and controlling and was out in a week. As unbelievable as the story sounds, I wish it wasn't true. Older people in my family have told me that I'm overreacting, that it's normal for parents to keep up with their children. Am I the a-hole? No, you're not the a-hole. You're completely uncomfortable. It should be normalized to move out and leave if this is how a parent is treating you. By the way, knowing what you're getting up to is like seeing how you're doing, making sure you're safe, not intruding on sex lives and going through people's things. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Nope, not the a-hole. It's normal for parents to keep up with their children, for sure. But this is a whole other level. It doesn't even matter if you were a difficult child. This is beyond that. Favorite foods? Well, that's almost endearing. Boyfriends? Okay, maybe he just has a bad memory. But your sex life? No, ma'am. That's awful. Good for you for getting out. It sounds like your father won't be much help. I'm so sorry, but good on you for getting the hell out of there. You are absolutely not the asshole for moving out, and I don't blame you at all. While it is barely possible that this was innocent, I would have found it very creepy as well and probably would have done the same thing. Some of the information he listed could be excused with his explanation of your being a difficult child, but a lot of it sounds way over the top and weird. It is absolutely not normal for a father to write down speculation about his daughter's virginity, and definitely not normal to write down which boyfriends he thinks he had slept with. It sounds to me like your father may be in need for psychiatric help, depending on what made him start keeping these lists.